Rain lashed against the windshield as Special Agent Daniel Hayes drove through the quiet streets of Arlington, Virginia. The call had come just after midnight, one of those calls no FBI agent ever forgets. A missing person, but not just anyone, the daughter of a high-ranking cybersecurity consultant who had deep government contracts. Her name, Emily Carter, 24, a graduate student at Georgetown University, last seen leaving the library at 9:47 p.m. Her phone went dead at 10:05. By 11:30, her father was on the line with the bureau. Daniel parked his black sedan outside the Carter residence, a large colonial house with perfect white shutters. Blue and red strobes from Arlington PD cruisers painted the driveway. The air smelled of wet asphalt and fear. As he stepped out, an officer greeted him. "Agent Hayes, good to see you again. The Carters are inside. Mr. Carter's been persistent." Daniel nodded. He knew the type, government consultants who lived in classified worlds, convinced the universe owed them protection. But the urgency in the father's call had carried something else. Dread. Inside, the living room was immaculate. A crystal chandelier sparkled above, but the atmosphere was tense. Mr. Carter, a tall, silver-haired man in his 50s, paced near the fireplace. His wife sat on the couch, her hands trembling around a mug of untouched tea. "Agent Hayes," Carter turned sharply. "They took her." Daniel raised a brow. "Sir, at this stage, all we know is that she's missing. Abduction hasn't been confirmed." "It's abduction," Carter said with certainty, his jaw tight. "This isn't random. My work. My access. Someone wants leverage." Daniel studied him. Carter wasn't the kind of man who panicked easily. He had clearance levels most agents could only dream of. If he was convinced this was targeted, then the Bureau couldn't treat it like a simple missing person. "Tell me everything," Daniel said. For the next half hour, Carter laid out details. Emily had no known enemies, no history of running away, no risky behavior. But he had recently been consulting on a project tied to national infrastructure security, something that, if compromised, could cripple half the eastern seaboard. And now my daughter's gone. He finished bitterly. "Coincidence? I don't believe in them." Daniel's mind raced. Kidnapping the daughter of a government cybersecurity consultant could mean ransom, blackmail, or worse, an inside job. "Do you have enemies? Anyone who might want to pressure you?" Daniel asked. Carter's eyes darkened. "Plenty, but none who would dare this, not without help." Before Daniel could press further, his phone buzzed. A message from the Bureau's cyber unit. Last known ping from Emily Carter's phone. Abandoned warehouse, Navy Yard District. Signal terminated abruptly. Daniel's pulse quickened. "We've got a location. I need a tactical team down there in 15 minutes. Carter stood up. "I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not," Daniel said firmly. "If they took Emily to get to you, walking into that warehouse makes you the prize. Stay here. I'll find her." Carter hesitated, then reluctantly sat back down, though his eyes burned with helpless rage. Daniel grabbed his coat and strode into the stormy night. Something about this case felt different, too clean, too calculated, and as the warehouse loomed closer in his mind, one question gnawed at him. Was Emily Carter still alive? Or had the kidnappers already sent their first message? The Navy Yard warehouse district slept under a shroud of darkness, the rain now reduced to a steady drizzle that glistened off cracked pavement. Daniel Hayes stood beside his black sedan, staring at the looming structure ahead. The warehouse was massive. Corrugated steel walls scarred by decades of neglect, windows covered in grime, the whole place reeking of abandonment. But Emily Carter's phone had died here. That made this hollow, rotting building the center of the storm. A tactical team of 6 FBI agents in black gear moved silently around him, weapons ready. Their radios crackled softly with coded updates as they surrounded the perimeter. "Team Alpha in position," whispered the lead agent. "Team Bravo ready on the south entrance." Daniel adjusted his Kevlar vest, his Glock snug in its holster. He wasn't new to raids, but he couldn't shake the tightness in his chest tonight. Missing person cases carried a unique weight, especially when you feared the missing might already be a corpse. On my signal, Daniel ordered. He held up 3 fingers. 3, 2, 1. The battering ram slammed into the rusted door, the sound echoing like a cannon blast. Agents swept inside with precision, flashlights slicing through the blackness. The warehouse was cavernous, filled with shadows that seemed to breathe. Old machinery stood silent like forgotten giants. Puddles reflected beams of light as agents fanned out, clear left, clear right. Daniel moved down the central aisle, eyes sharp. The silence was unsettling, broken only by the scuff of boots and the distant drip of water. Then a metallic clang echoed from the far end. The team froze, weapons snapped up. Sound came from the storage office. One agent whispered. Daniel motioned them forward. They approached a small room at the back of the warehouse, its door slightly ajar, a faint light flickering inside. The smell hit him first. Burnt plastic and something chemical, sharp enough to sting his nose. He pushed the door open. Inside, the office was a wreck. Computer monitors lay smashed on the floor. A desk was overturned, papers scattered everywhere. And on the wall, in jagged black spray paint, someone had scrawled a chilling message. Silence protects. Daniel's stomach tightened. The phrase wasn't random. It had the cold, deliberate feel of a calling card. "Sir," an agent called, pointing to a corner. Daniel's flashlight landed on a small object. A cell phone, shattered but recognizable. Emily's. His pulse jumped. He crouched, examining the damage. It hadn't just been dropped. It had been deliberately destroyed, circuits burned out. Whoever left it wanted to erase data, but not without leaving the shell as proof. She had been here. Bag it. Daniel ordered. Another agent sifted through papers on the floor. Looks like printouts of code. Strings of numbers and symbols. Could be encryption keys, sir. Daniel took a closer look. The pages weren't random. They were fragments of a cipher, but why scatter them here in plain sight? Then his eyes caught something else. On the floor near the desk was a trail of faint reddish, brown smears, blood. The trail led to a back door, its lock broken. "Get the K9 unit," Daniel said. "Now." Minutes later, a German shepherd strained at its handler's leash, nose pressed to the ground. It picked up the scent immediately, pulling them through the rear exit into an alley behind the warehouse. The dog barked sharply, leading them to a dumpster. The handler yanked the lid open. Everyone tensed. Inside were torn pieces of duct tape, some strands of long brown hair stuck to the adhesive. Emily Carter's description, brunette. Daniel clenched his fists. This wasn't just abduction. It was psychological warfare. Someone wanted them to see these breadcrumbs, to know Emily had been bound, terrified, dragged through this hellhole. But why leave clues if the goal was silence? One of the agents spoke up, voice uneasy. "Sir, this feels staged, like they wanted us to find all of this." Daniel nodded grimly, exactly, which means we're playing their game. His phone buzzed. It was the Bureau's cyber unit again. "Hayes." He answered. "Agent Hayes, we just pulled something from the last ping of Emily's phone. For about 30 seconds before it died, it transmitted strange data packet. It's encrypted, high-level coding signatures, not normal cell traffic. Whoever had that phone was sending a message." Daniel's breath caught. To who? That's the problem. We don't know, but whatever it was, it originated here, and it wasn't just random. It's a cipher embedded in the signal, and Agent Hayes. It matches fragments of classified encryption schemes from Homeland Security. Daniel's blood ran cold. Homeland Security encryption. Emily's abduction wasn't about ransom. It was about access. Someone was using her disappearance to send a coded warning, or worse, a threat. He looked back at the spray-painted words on the wall. Silence protects, not just a threat, a philosophy, and Daniel Hayes knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whoever had Emily Carter wasn't finished yet. By dawn, the warehouse was sealed off with yellow FBI tape. floodlights casting long shadows across the damp pavement. Forensics vans lined the block, agents in protective suits combing every inch of the scene. Daniel Hayes hadn't slept. He sat at a folding table inside a mobile command post, coffee in hand, staring at the evidence board already cluttered with photos, Emily's shattered phone, the spray-painted words, the scraps of code. The message still burned in his head. Silence protects. A knock on the door broke his focus. Special Agent Lisa Monroe entered, her blonde hair tied back in a sharp ponytail. She was the Bureau's cyber intelligence specialist, quick-witted, relentless, and one of the few people Daniel trusted completely. "You look like hell," she said, setting down a laptop. "Appreciate the honesty," Daniel muttered. "Tell me you've got something." Lisa opened her computer, fingers flying across the keys. "The fragments we pulled from Emily's phone. They're not just random code. They're pieces of a larger encryption algorithm. Government grade. It matches patterns I've only seen in top-level Homeland protocols." Daniel leaned closer, so either Carter's work is leaking or someone's mocking him. Lisa shook her head, not mocking, challenging. "This is like a puzzle, Daniel. A message hidden inside a cipher, only decipherable if you have the right key. And do we?" She hesitated. "Not yet, but here's the kicker. Whoever transmitted that signal piggybacked it on an old government satellite channel, one that was supposed to be decommissioned 10 years ago. Nobody should even know it exists." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Which means our kidnappers are more than thugs. They're professionals. They want us to see just enough to understand how dangerous they are." Lisa turned the laptop so he could see. On the screen was a digital map of D.C., a red dot flashing where the warehouse was located. "We tracked the signal's trajectory. It bounced off 3 relays before vanishing. That's deliberate cloaking. But here's the strange part." She zoomed in. For about 3 seconds, it left a ghost trail, the kind hackers call a signature flare. And guess what name it spelled? Daniel's pulse quickened. "Don't tell me." "Silent Rain." Daniel exhaled slowly. He'd heard the name whispered in cyber intel briefings. An elusive hacker collective rumored to be behind data breaches in Europe, power grid attacks in Asia, and at least one unsolved Pentagon intrusion. No one had ever proven they existed. Until now. Silent Rain, Daniel repeated, "and they're here in D.C." Lisa nodded grimly. "And they have Emily Carter." Later that morning, Daniel and Lisa drove to Georgetown University to retrace Emily's last steps. The campus was alive with students, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. Inside the library, Daniel met a night guard who had seen Emily leave. She was carrying a laptop bag, the guard recalled. "Looked like she was texting someone, smiled once, then walked toward the parking lot. That was the last I saw her." "Did you recognize her car?" Daniel asked. "Yeah, white Honda Civic, but when I made rounds an hour later it was gone." Daniel filed the detail away. Emily hadn't just vanished, her car was missing too. Lisa was scrolling through campus security footage on her tablet. "Got her," she said. On the grainy video, Emily appeared in the lot, raincoat hood pulled up, phone in hand. She reached her car, unlocked it, and paused, frowning at something off camera. Then the footage glitched, static flooding the screen. "Damn it," Lisa cursed. "System blackout. Someone scrubbed the feed." Daniel studied the frozen frame before the glitch. Emily's eyes weren't afraid, they were surprised, as if she recognized whoever approached. A chill prickled down his spine. Back at headquarters, Daniel sat across from Emily's father in a secure briefing room. Mr. Carter's face was pale, his hands trembling despite the calm facade. "You know the group that took her," Daniel said bluntly. "Silent Rain." Carter's eyes narrowed. "I've heard rumors." "Rumors," Daniel pressed. "Or direct threats." Carter hesitated, then sighed. 6 months ago, I received an anonymous email. They demanded access to my Homeland encryption project. They called it the Silent Code. I dismissed it as empty cyber chatter. My security team traced nothing. I didn't report it higher. There was nothing to report. Daniel leaned forward. "They told you the name of your project? That's classified?" Carter's voice broke. "I didn't think they'd come after my daughter." The room went silent. Daniel's gut twisted. Silent Rain hadn't just stumbled across Carter. They had inside intelligence that meant someone somewhere had leaked. Lisa entered with fresh intel. "We found Emily's car." Daniel stood instantly. "Where?" "An underground garage in Foggy Bottom, parked neatly, no damage, no prints, but in the trunk." She slid a photo onto the table. Daniel stared. Inside the trunk lay a flash drive taped to the carpet. "What's on it?" Carter asked. Lisa's expression was grim. "We're still analyzing, but preliminary scans suggest it contains fragments of the same cipher, only this time there's an embedded video file." Daniel felt his pulse hammering. "Play it." On the screen, static resolved into a dark room. Emily sat in a chair, hands bound, eyes wide but defiant. A masked figure stood behind her, voice distorted by digital filters. "The code belongs to no one." The figure intoned, "Silence protects. Break the silence and blood will follow." The screen went black. Carter's face crumpled. Daniel clenched his fists, fury rising. Silent Rain wasn't just after the project. They were playing a twisted game of leverage, dragging Emily into the center of a cyber war that could cripple the nation. And Daniel Hayes knew they had just stepped onto a battlefield where bullets were replaced by algorithms, and every move could be fatal. The flash drive sat in the middle of the evidence table, sealed in a plastic bag like a bomb waiting to detonate. The air in the FBA cyber lab was tense, filled with the quiet hum of servers and the glow of dozens of monitors. Lisa Monroe adjusted her headset and tapped furiously on her keyboard. "All right. I've isolated the video file, but the rest of the drive. It's a maze, layers of encryption stacked on top of one another. Whoever built this knew what they were doing." Daniel Hayes stood behind her, arms crossed. He hated waiting. Every tick of the clock meant Emily Carter was closer to whatever fate Silent Rain had planned. "Tell me you can crack it." Daniel pressed. Lisa smirked faintly. "I can crack anything, just not instantly." On the main screen, lines of code scrolled faster than the eye could follow. Algorithms tested combinations by the thousands, each attempt hitting a wall of silence. Then, suddenly, a window popped open. Lisa's eyebrows shot up. "Well, that's interesting. What? They left us a riddle." She pulled it onto the screen. It was a simple text file, just 3 words, "Find the echo." Daniel frowned. "Echo of what?" "Could be a network term," Lisa said, thinking aloud. "Or it could be literal. An echo is something that repeats. A mirror. Or a trap." Daniel muttered. Lisa's fingers flew again. She began running the cipher against known Silent Rain signatures, searching for any repetition, any pattern. Then she froze. "Oh my God," she whispered. "What?" Daniel demanded. Lisa pointed to the monitor. "The fragments of code. They're mirroring Homeland Security's master encryption protocol. Not just imitating it. They're building a backdoor into it. If Silent Rain completes this cipher, they'll have the keys to every secure channel in the United States government." Daniel's stomach dropped. And Carter's project, exactly what they need to finish it. Before Daniel could respond, a technician called out from the far side of the lab. "Agent Hayes, we've got a live feed hit. Same signature as the warehouse." Everyone turned as a new video window flickered onto the screen. Emily again. Same chair, same dark room, but this time she was crying. Her voice shook. "Dad, if you're watching this, they want you to unlock the code. They said if you don't, they'll..." The feed glitched violently, pixels warping, her face dissolving into static. Then a new message appeared, scrawled across the screen in glowing red text. "Time is running out. Deliver the key, midnight, or she disappears forever." The feed cut. The room fell silent. Daniel slammed a fist onto the table. "Damn it, they're escalating." Carter, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, buried his face in his hands. His voice was hoarse. "They're forcing me. If I give them the key, they'll own everything, but if I don't..." His shoulders shook. "Emily dies." Daniel crouched in front of him. "Listen to me. Giving in isn't an option." Silent Rain doesn't care about deals. Once they have the key, they'll kill her anyway. We need to outthink them. We need to find the echo. Hours later, Daniel and Lisa sat in a war room plastered with maps, code printouts, and photos. The phrase "find the echo" gnawed at Daniel like a splinter. He paced the room. Echo. Echo of what? Sound, data, locations. Lisa leaned back, chewing her lip. Echo protocols. Wait, I've seen something like this before. She pulled up an old file from the Bureau's cyber archives. 10 years ago, Silent Rain hijacked a European banking network. They hid their transmissions inside redundant signal, echo packets. Basically, they bounced their communications off legitimate systems, so it looked like background noise. Daniel's eyes lit up. So if they're doing it again, there's a trail. Lisa nodded. Exactly. We just need to listen for the right echo. She typed a command. The lab filled with a low electronic hum as servers scanned frequencies, searching for anomalies in the data stream. For minutes, nothing happened. Then, faintly, a signal pinged back. Lisa froze. I've got one. Tracing now. On the screen, a map appeared. A glowing line bounced across D.C., narrowing to a cluster of coordinates. Finally, it zeroed in on a location. Daniel leaned forward. Where is it? Lisa stared at the blinking dot. Her voice was hushed. An abandoned telecom hub outside the city near Rock Creek Park. Daniel grabbed his jacket. Get a tactical team. If they're holding Emily, that's where she is. Night fell hard over the city. Black SUV roared through the wet streets, headlights cutting through the dark. Daniel sat in the lead vehicle, gun holstered, eyes fixed ahead. The closer they drew to the target, the heavier the tension became. Silent Rain was no ordinary adversary. They weren't drug dealers or mobsters. They were ghosts, hackers who lived in shadows, pulling strings no one else could see. But tonight, Daniel intended to drag them into the light. The convoy stopped half a mile from the hub, a crumbling building hidden in the trees. Agents moved silently, setting up perimeter positions, rifles raised. Daniel checked his comms. Alpha Team, you're on the east side. Bravo, west, we move in 5. Lisa's voice crackled in his earpiece. Daniel, careful. If this is really them, it won't just be guns waiting inside. The whole building could be wired with digital traps. Cramblers, signal bombs, false data feeds. Daniel smirked grimly. Then we'll just have to cut through the noise. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3. At 0, the FBI stormed the building. Flashbangs detonated, light and sound flooding the night. Daniel charged through the main entrance, weapon up, heart pounding. And then he saw it, a room glowing with screens, dozens of them, each streaming lines of code, maps, and surveillance feeds. At the center sat a single chair, empty, and on the wall, painted in the same jagged black letters as before, were the words that made his blood run cold. Too slow. The silence spreads. The telecom hub smelled of mildew and burnt circuits. FBI agents swept through its hollow corridors, radios buzzing with terse updates. East wing clear. Server room clear. No hostiles. Daniel Hayes ignored the chatter. He stood in the center of the glowing command room, staring at the wall where the words were scrawled in black paint. Too slow. The silence spreads. Silent Rain had been here, recently. Lisa Monroe joined him, her face pale in the glow of the screens. This whole place is a decoy, she whispered. Look at the setup. Servers still running, but half the feeds are loops. They wanted us to find this. Daniel clenched his jaw, and while we were chasing ghosts, they moved her. Lisa finished grimly. Back at headquarters, Carter raged at the Bureau. You had them. You were right there, and you let them vanish. His voice cracked with grief and fury. Daniel didn't respond. He was staring at the flash drive evidence again. Something nagged at him, the phrase, the taunt, find the echo. He turned to Lisa, pull up the drive again, scan everything, audio, video, even the static. Lisa frowned but complied. Minutes later, spectral analysis filled the screens, spikes of data hidden inside the video file's noise. There, Daniel pointed, that's not random static. That sound. Lisa isolated it, cleaned it, replayed it. At first it was just a low hum, then faintly words emerged. "If you find this, I'm alive." Emily's voice. The room went silent. Lisa's eyes widened. She embedded her own signal inside the video. She created her own echo. Daniel's pulse quickened. "Can you trace it?" "I'll try." Her fingers flew. The hum resolved into a pattern, triangulating against cellular towers. A red dot appeared on the map. Lisa's breath caught. "Got her. Industrial storage complex. Outside Baltimore." Daniel grabbed his gun. "Mobilize everyone. We're not losing her again." A night blanketed the complex as FBI SUV roared into position. Floodlights snapped on, cutting through the dark. Daniel led the entry team, his weapon drawn, adrenaline surging. On my mark, breach. The doors splintered under the ram. Agents stormed inside, rooms of stacked crates, the smell of oil and rust. And then a cry, "Help!" Daniel's head whipped toward it. He sprinted down a narrow hall, heart hammering. In a locked storage room, Emily Carter sat bound to a chair, duct tape across her wrists. Her eyes widened in relief as Daniel burst in. "FBI," he said, tearing the tape free, "you're safe now." But even as he spoke, he knew it wasn't over. A laptop sat on the table beside her, screen flashing red. "Silence ends tonight." Lisa rushed in, scanning it. "It's a trigger." They left malware primed to launch across Homeland networks. Carter arrived seconds later, pale and trembling. "They're forcing me. They want me to finish their code." Emily grabbed his hand. "Dad, don't. It's what they want." Lisa worked furiously on the laptop. "Wait. This isn't a trigger. It's a challenge. They built the malware, but they left a flaw. It's almost like..." She trailed off. Daniel finished it for her. "Like they want us to try and stop them." Lisa nodded. "If I can invert their cipher, I can shut it down before it spreads." The screen flashed a countdown. 00, 14, 59, 15 minutes until nationwide blackout. The room turned into a frenzy. Agents relayed updates. Carter whispered code fragments. Lisa typed like a woman possessed. Daniel stood guard, eyes darting, waiting for the ambush he was sure was coming. 10 minutes, someone called. "Lisa," Daniel barked, "talk to me." She didn't look up. "Almost there. They built this like a mirror maze. Every line of code loops back on itself, but mirrors crack if you hit the right angle." Her fingers flew faster. The clock ticked down. 00, 02, 00. "Lisa," Daniel warned. "Got it." She shouted, slamming the enter key. The laptop screen froze. The countdown blinked, then stopped at 00, 00, 37. Lines of code disintegrated into static. Then the screen went black. Silence. Then Lisa leaned back, panting. "It's dead. The silent code is broken." Carter collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down his face. He pulled Emily into his arms, holding her as if he'd never let go. Daniel finally let out the breath he'd been holding. Later, as dawn painted the horizon, Daniel and Lisa stood outside the complex, watching medics load Emily into an ambulance. "We stopped them," Lisa said softly. Daniel shook his head. "For now. Silent Rain doesn't play one game. They play 10. Tonight we shut one down, but they're still out there." Lisa looked at him. "You think they wanted us to win?" Daniel's gaze hardened. "No, I think this was a test, and next time, they won't leave flaws in their code." As the sun rose, Daniel Hayes felt the weight of the war still ahead. Emily Carter was alive. The silent code was broken. But in the shadows of the digital world, Silent Rain was already writing their next move, and Daniel knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.